welcome to After Hours. My name is Cameron Steele. My guest today is Leonard Howell, shaman and international artist. Welcome to the program, Leonard. I want to talk to you about shamanism. And it seems to me that you're the professional in this business. I understand you're giving workshops around Vancouver. You do concerts. So my first question, though, is there's a lot of confusion around a shaman. Now, what is a shaman exactly?
Well,
what kinds are there?
A shaman is actually a facilitator of one's growth, or a bridge between a person and the inner world. And the shaman can be called a facilitator of ecstasy. He can also be called, he or she can be called a facilitator of that inner essence of finding out the truth within yourself. So in many, many cultures, the shaman was relied on for visions for the tribe and tribal backgrounds, going back as far as the Syrian times, back into the BC, into the Greek times. And, there was the Celtic shamans, the Druid shamans, the Native American shamans, and the role of the shaman has always been to help, for instance, the warriors before they would go out to the hunts and to the wars, to get that strength from within themselves. And so the shaman wasn't the same as the medicine man. The medicine man was more in the center of the tribal structure, whereas the shaman was more on the outside. The shaman, you'd have to seek the shaman. The shaman, of course, had wisdom beyond his years or her years, and would gather knowledge from people older than himself, teachers that would come into his life. Sometimes the shaman would be chosen through the tribal peoples through an event, say during his birth or prophecy. He'd be born, prophesied as a shaman coming to his tribal peoples. Sometimes something would happen in his lifetime. For instance, some of the great teachers in the world were things that happened to them during their lifetime, like Sitting Bull, but Black Elk. He was sick at the age of 9 and had a journey to a great white teepee in the clouds. And after he came back from this journey, his parents realized that he had actually passed on.
Is that actually a shaman journey that he took?
Yes. And in that journey, he gathered and received wisdom way beyond his years as a 9-year-old child, became what they call a hunka child, and went on to be a great and wonderful shaman for his people for years and years. In fact, his writings and his teachings are still being looked at and honored long after he has been passed on.
Well, what's the difference between a Celtic shaman and, say, a Native American shaman? Is there a big difference in that?
Somewhat, in the sense that depending on what the tools the shaman uses, most of the thread between all of the shamans is that they would go into the inner world, or the world of the great mystery. And of course, we only see 1/10 of the darkness. We only see there's 9/10 out there that we don't really know about. And so the shaman would help us to discover that 9/10 of what we don't see. And so it brings strength to the warriors, would bring strength to mothers about to have children, and bring wisdom to a society, to tribal councils, as far as the chiefs, and they would all seek this knowledge and strength from the shaman.
Now, I've heard in some cases where people are going through certain things in their life. For instance, maybe somebody's going through something that's really dramatic in their life. The shaman has often seeked them, or they've come into their lives. How often does that happen, and how does that work in today's society? I mean, there's so many things going on. Tell me about that.
Well, nowadays with the advent of the internet and so much multimedia around us, that it isn't too hard to find, but at the same time one still has to find in their heart who's going to resonate with them. And so if someone was to seek a shaman out, they would want to resonate with that one. The shaman, of course, he would always honor that one and say, do you feel good about working with me? This is what's happening in my life, and honor that shaman. In our Native American way, we would honor that shaman with some tobacco, and come to that shaman and offer up that tobacco and tell that shaman what we're going through. The shaman would know how to help us.
What does it mean to offer tobacco to a shaman?
Tobacco was an honoring gift, in the sense that it's a gift of the East, and it's a gift of the eagle. And it brings us clarity and illumination, and it's a herb that is used originally, before smoking, it was used to pray with. And so the shaman, of course, can use this in his or her ceremonial rites, and so it's always a gift that's received in blessing.
Now, in doing some of the research I've done in shamanism, I have found that every animal we have on this planet, it seems, represents some kind of journey that someone can take with an animal. What animals have you worked with, spiritually speaking?
Interesting enough, I've worked with some animals that are not just native to the North American continent, as we call Turtle Island, but the world. I've worked with the elephant, as far as a totem animal, tiger, lion. Recently, I took actress Carol Alt on a shamanic journey on Salt Spring Island, and one of the totems that appeared to her was the elephant. Of all animals, and she felt that the elephant was actually going to break down the door. That's how real it was for her. And after watching the program, I was amazed myself at how real it was for her. And I knew that elephant was right there. But mostly I've worked with my own animal, as the eagle. But I work a lot with the bear, the buffalo, spirit of the coyote, of course. The coyote brings us lots of laughter and lots of fun. We always need a little coyote medicine. And even animals like a mouse or a hawk or a snake, we can't discount any animal, because each one has a very special gift they brought to teach people with.
And what do you think is the reason? First of all, what is shaman? Where did the word come from? And why do you think it's become so popular in our society now that it seems everywhere you look, people are talking about shamanism, and which is why we've had you on the show today. So can you answer that for us?
Well, from my knowledge, the word shaman is to bridge, or to be a bridge man or a bridge person, to be a facilitator of ecstasy or joy, or helping one to find the strength within themselves. And the shaman's work is so important in society now, because people are coming up against complex problems. A very fast-moving world where there's a lot of time sometimes to take that time to go with them. So having someone to facilitate that can help a person grow and facilitate something within themselves that can help. Goes way beyond the psychological world, goes way beyond psychiatrists. And although they do have their positions, and I would never want to discount doctors and people in the medical world, but at the same time, the shaman can provide a very different platform for healing work.
Now, what was your shaman journey? You told me a long time ago about some journey that you went on where you actually got in contact with whales on Vancouver Island. Now, tell us, how did you happen to come across that? What was that about?
Well, a good friend of mine in the Okanagan and I, we had a sweat lodge, and it was, I believe it was in August of all times, and it was about 108 or 110 degrees outside, and here we are in the sweat lodge, sweating away. And you've been in a lodge before.
It's pretty hot.
It was a two-man lodge, and after coming out of the lodge, I laid on the massage table, and I was getting a healing, and a spirit voice came.
What kind of healing were you getting?
Just energetic. Some light body work and some energy, and they were doing a little Reiki on me. And all of a sudden this voice came in from just like it was a speaker in the ceiling, but
so it was a tangible voice?
Oh yes, a very tangible.
Outside your ears? Okay.
And the tangible voice said to me, "You must go to Vancouver Island. There's an old friend that you're to meet there." And I went, "What?" And yes, this old friend. And I thought, well, gee, I have lots of old friends, and this one goes further back, long time ago. And would you like to take this journey? And I kind of laid in the bed thinking, well, I don't know. That's a big island. Where am I to go? And the voice said, you will be given a guide. Will you trust? I laid there and kind of surrendered to it and thought, well, I went to my heart and it felt good. And so I trusted, and my wife and I packed up the van, went off to Vancouver Island. Sure enough, in Nanaimo, we were pulling off the ferry, and there, running across the road, is a young native man. He sticks his thumb out, and I was so pulled to stop for him. I just pulled over. He jumped in the van, and I said, oh, interesting to come along with you. And he said, well, it's interesting that you picked me up. And I'm really glad you did it. And I said, yeah, well, we had this interesting voice from a spirit that said we were to meet this whale, and they said we would be given a guide in Nanaimo. And he said, well, that's funny. He says, because I was a fisherman all my life with my dad, and I know all the haunts, all the places where the whales go all around Vancouver Island. Oh, then there was no doubt in my mind that Joe was our man. And so he told us, we did a little work on it, and we traveled and talked, and it turned out that it was going to be in Kelsey Bay that we would meet this whale.
Kelsey Bay is up in Nanaimo?
Past Nanaimo. It's up in the north part of the island, and a place called Sayward. And when we got to the bay, it was just drenched in the rainforest rain. And we looked at each other, my wife and I, and my friend Bruce and his wife, and we're all in our vans, and we're going, what are we doing here? It's just pouring rain.
How close to the water were you?
We were right on the dock.
Right on the dock.
There's nothing there except one little store, and they closed up, and I was given a coffee pot, so I just went. If I could make coffee. And, anyway, I bought this little coffee pot for a couple of dollars, and we went back down to the dock, and we were laughing. We thought, well, let's make supper. And so we made supper, and to make a long story short, during the evening hours, we had finally decided to go to bed, and we decided to share a sacred pipe, sacred ceremony. And we lowered the pipe of tobacco, and we prayed over it. And I asked my friend Bruce to take the ashes and put them in the ocean, and he did. And just as he did that, he went back to his van, and I felt a kind of a sleepy feeling come over me. And I was sitting in a chair very much like this in my van, and I leaned over like this, and I could hear this music on the radio, and I could hear whales singing in the music, and it was a song by the Eagles, and I knew that they'd ever have one of these nights with a whale singing in there. And I went up and turned the radio off and sat back down, and I could still hear it.
Wow.
And I felt this sleepy feeling again, and I said to my wife, I said, I feel really sleepy. I think I'm just going to have a nap. And I kind of leaned my head over, and she said I began to talk, and she grabbed this paper that she had, and she wrote and sobbed the whole time that I wrote, Cam.
What was she writing?
She was writing out all that I was speaking. It was coming through me, this incredible love and energy that was coming through me, was speaking a voice through using my mind and my heart, my abilities. I had no idea that it was happening, and she wrote down everything, and she sobbed and cried because it was so powerful, and both of us had never felt being enveloped in love like that in my life. And of course, when we finished, we read what she had wrote, and it's a story that became like a legend. And so from then on, we decided to live on the island, and it changed our lives forever.
Wow.
And the whale, we asked the whale, we said, well, you know, we're still humans, and we kind of get skeptical sometimes. Are you really real? And she said, in her journey, she said, I will appear to you in the morning.
Wow.
First thing. And so we went out first thing in the morning, and there she was. She put her tail up in the
How far from the dock was the whale?
Right.
Really?
5 or 10 feet away. And
wow.
I was amazed. I could see the blowhole.
Did you get a picture?
No, we actually never had a camera with us. So, shamans don't carry too many cameras around. So much of our work is about cameras. But nevertheless, it was an incredible journey that became a song. And now Bruce is, of course, recording his new album, and he's got this Bruce Martin.
Oh, Bruce
he's
Martin,
a good friend of mine, and he's doing a new album, and he's got a song on there called Message from Will, and here he's got the story of Sinakwe, and that's her name. And so it became a story really worth telling. And in fact, in the early days, it kind of embarrassed me a little bit to even talk about it, because I thought, well, this is so strange. But once this had happened to us, we actually found other people, Cam, people that had similar stories. A woman came to us and said, I was on a ship in a fishing boat, and I was feeling very sick, and the men were up, and they were drinking and playing cards. And she said, I was laying there, and I didn't know it was going to be a long time before I got home. And she said she felt this incredible loving feeling. She said, what I was dreaming of was being cuddled as a little girl by her mom. Oh. And she said she felt this incredible feeling, and as she looked out the porthole of the ship, she saw the eye of a whale. Wow. And this whale was right up against her. And of course, the guys that were upstairs, up in the galley had seen this, and they yelled to her, "Did you see the whale?" And she went running up and told them the story of she had seen the eye, and she said that she could travel almost like years and years into this whale's eye, and many people came to us with stories.
Well, speaking of whales, and I noticed a lot of totems they have whales on them.
Mm-hmm.
What's the significance of a whale on a totem pole, say, or what's the significance of a whale for a shaman? Because a lot of shamans do, in my research, work with whales.
Mm-hmm. Well, the whale is a record keeper, and they were in the waters before we came to be as people, and so of course they carry ancient knowledge that our peoples have known about. In fact, the legends go so far back, Cameron, that they say that the whales came through the Pleiades, the star system of the Pleiades, and were brought by the Sirius people, right, or the Sirius ones, the Syrians, and they brought them through this gateway of the Pleiades and brought them to Earth, and they became the record keepers of Earth. And this is actually in our legends that we have these stories.
What kind of native are you?
I would consider myself Métis. I have a Lakota Sioux grandmother, and who married into a French Huron family. And my dad's side was Welsh and Dene.
Okay, now that's very interesting. Now, is there a difference between, say, Lakota and, say, the Sioux in Saskatchewan, I believe they are, and you've got the Brard band here. I'm not sure what the Brard is called.
There's an older name. They are the Brard band.
But what is the difference? Is there a difference between each shaman of that, say, a Sioux shaman and a Lakota shaman?
Oh, yes. There'd be for instance, a Lakota shaman, they'd have certain trainings that they would have, tools that they would use, whereas a shaman of the West Coast tribes would use a different tool, a different method. They possibly could use a different kind of dance or a different kind of song to invoke the spirit. Of course, the Lakota people were part of the Nakota, Dakota, Lakota of the Sioux. A Cree shaman might be different. And they're finding now that a lot of the shamans of the ancient times used crystals. They found a medicine bag that was on eBay, and this medicine bag had belonged to a Cree elder, and it had a crystal in it.
Interesting. I want to talk about your tools. We've only got a few minutes left. But I do want to ask you, you mentioned a sweat lodge. What is a sweat lodge?
A sweat lodge is a place of purification. It's hard to wrap it up in a few minutes. But
of course.
It's basically the place of the north on the medicine wheel is a place where we purify and cleanse. That's where we gain our strength. And the lodge represents the womb of Mother Earth. So we're able to go into that womb and be reborn again.
So you're really working with a lot of spirits type thing?
Exactly. It's like a rebirth thing with spirits. You're inviting negative and positive spirits to come into the lodge in that darkness and work with whatever you're trying to go through. And of course, you know yourself, when you let go,
everything works out, of course. I see you've got some amazing tools here. Can you run through, first of all, this abalone shell has got sage in it. What would be the sage for?
Sage is a gift of the South. It's used for purification, of course, as well. And it's a coyote spirit medicine, so that we use that, the smoke of it, as we burn that, we bring that smoke over and it cleanses us. We have tobacco. Tobacco would be an offering, or tobacco could be given as a gift before we start. We might lay tobacco down on the ground.
No, they call it smudging, don't they?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, smudging with the sage. Cedar can be used in some smudges, depending on the tribal background.
Right.
And then, of course, I have an eagle's wing, which
isn't that illegal, or is that legal?
Oh no, of course, if you're working with the medicines of these birds. This one was given to me just for someone to be able to carry an eagle feather. No, they couldn't do that, but because I've been given a right to carry the eagle feather as part of my work. I have my flute, which I use in my work, and the flute helps to bring that person to a calm place where they can calm down. And I have my drum, which is the biggest part of the shaman work, where I use the drum, and the drum is played at a certain beat, and which takes the person's mind into that state, into that theta state where it's almost before you fall asleep, that beautiful dream state, and that person is able to
Excellent. Wonderful tools. I'm going to get you to play something either on your flute or your drum, but I want to ask you about a vision quest. You mentioned that earlier, and is there something significant that a person does on that?
A vision quest ties in with the dream. It's really, really important for us to dream, to have a goal. And we come to a certain point in our lives where things aren't working anymore. There's a certain path that has to be changed. And so in order to work with that change, we seek a vision, or we call Handrapleya in Lakota.
Handrapleya?
Yeah, Handrapleya means crying for a dream.
Okay.
And so you would go to a shaman, or you'd go to someone that could facilitate this for you, and they call it putting you on the hill. And the person goes out on the hill for 4 days.
By themselves?
By themselves. But the whole time that they are gone, there is someone that is looking after a fire, is praying over that fire, and knows that they're there. They're not just sent out and left alone. They're looked after in the sense that they're energetically looked after.
And it's for 4 days?
Yes, 4 days.
Fasting?
Fasting and going without food, and then the person receives a vision, something may happen, a bird may show up, or an animal that shows up and teaches them a profound thing can happen. Sometimes it'll be very, very silent, or it'll be very, very quiet, and they don't think anything happens, and they'll come back and have a sweat lodge and realize that it was very profound for them. So it's a very powerful right that was given to us, and it's a way for people to go within themselves. The vision quest is used a lot nowadays, along with the sweat lodge, for people of all walks of life, Cameron. Business people, nurses, doctors, lawyers, people going to school, students, people seeking that deeper and more strong part of themselves will go through these rites of the vision quest.
Excellent. Well, we've got 5 minutes, Leonard. What would you like to play?
I'd like to play a song on the flute, if I could.
Play the flute?
Yeah.
Absolutely. Please do.
This is a 6-hole Lakota cedar flute. It's a yellow cedar. And this is, of course, we were talking about the coyote medicine.
Okay.
And
so that'd be a coyote?
This is a coyote carving. And this is cherry wood, and this is the yellow cedar. Okay. And so when I play the flute...
can you explain the colors? The ribbons?
Yeah, these ribbons, the colors came to me. The white is for purity. I honor the purity of sound. The red is for the red road. We were going to talk about that too. And another time. The green is Mother Earth, I honor that. And the purple is Spirit World. And of course you're wearing Spirit World today. So
what about the ribbons, or the...
These are the way they tied it, just it gives the flute strength.
Okay.
And I've got a heron feather on here.
Oh, it's a heron feather.
The heron is the bringer who brings us home.
Okay.
And takes us home. So
excellent. Well, take us home.
Okay.
What a sound. That's marvelous.
It's a beautiful, beautiful instrument.
Is it very heavy?
Actually, it's very light. If you'd like to try it yourself, it's very light.
It's very light indeed. And where did you get this from?
It's actually from Oregon. And I was traveling back from the WESEC festival down there, and ran into this store that had it. It was in a gallery, an art gallery of all places, and there was no other flutes there. When I talked to Lily, the flute called out to me, and I had never actually played one before.
Wow.
And it's only been a few years, and the flute has actually taught me a lot about itself. And they're an instrument that really, the flute really brings your feelings out from the heart.
That was marvelous to hear it. Leonard, we've got 2 minutes left, and I'd like to actually hear the drum as well.
Sure.
Can you do 45 a minute or so of drumming?
Sure. Okay.
Before we finish for the day.
Okay.
Great.
This is my big.
What's that skin made out of?
This is an elk hide,
Okay.
and it's quite a big sound. So during the shamanic drumming, we would drum like this. And play it on. You know,
Is it over in a repetitive
time, and it's usually 15 minutes. And it's amazing because people come out of the drumming journey and think that 4 or 5 hours has actually elapsed.
Now, does a person lie down?
Yes.
When they're doing...
Usually the lying down is the healing, whereas the sitting up is inspirational, standing is the warrior.
Okay.
Warrior style.
And how long does a journey take, a shaman journey take?
I usually take people through 4 rounds.
Right.
And I take them through what we call the 4 archetypes. We go to the teacher, we go to the healer, the warrior, and the visionary. And each time, each one of those give them a message along with the totem animal.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wow. Leonard, I want to thank you for coming on the show today. It's been a real treat having you on. I'm sorry we didn't get more time, perhaps another time. And please carry on playing the drum.
Sure. Play a little song, and we'll go out with this song.
Okay, I'm Cameron Steele. Thank you for watching After Hours. Leonard Eagle Cloud, take it away.
Yo ya e o e o ai ya. Yo ya e o e o ai ya. E ya e ya we ya e ya. Yo we ya e ya we ya e ya.